Hi, I'm Jackie, Stitching Across the Globe, and welcome back to the Slea Head Quilt Along. This week, we're going to be cutting all of our fabric. I'm going to share some tips and tricks to help that process go as smooth as possible. Let's get started. Let's start by talking about some tools. A good sharp rotary blade, super important. Now, I'm not going to say you need a new one. I'm often guilty of using a rotary blade past its useful life, but you want to make sure it's good and sharp. You don't want to be muscling the blade through the fabric. That's pretty important. And then whatever your favorite ruler is, I like this one because the lines are nice and clean and easy to see. This is also one of my favorite tools. It suctions on, gives me a nice firm grip when I'm cutting fabric. The side's a little stiff. Suctions on my ruler, and then I'm not putting so much pressure on my wrist by pushing down. I can just grab this and hold it, get a nice steady cut. That's super important. Another thing is press your fabric. I know you can kind of see the fold lines here, and that's just because, you know, sometimes fat quarters are folded in those shapes for so long, but as long as the fabric lays smooth, it's still going to give you a good cut. Unlike this piece, I haven't pressed this piece yet, and see how it just doesn't want to lay flat? That's going to mess up the accuracy of your cuts. So just make sure you press your fabric before you start cutting. Another thing that I love to use is I use these flathead pins for labels. So labeling is super important in this pattern. You have about 6 different sizes of sashing cut. So you want to be able to label your pieces. And by this is just a flathead pin off Amazon. And then I used a fine head Sharpie to write my letter on it. And then it's just super easy to keep those pieces labeled. You don't have to worry about losing little scraps of paper. So that's one of my favorite ways to label my fabric. So follow the cutting chart in your pattern and you'll get all the pieces cut. I can't wait to see your progress. Now for actually cutting the pieces in Slea Head. So you're going to use pretty much the entire fat quarter of each of your fat quarters. There's not going to be a ton of extra fabric. So you want to start by trimming, but you want to keep your trimming minimal. So I usually kind of try to roughly line up an edge so that I have something to reference off of. And then I'm going to trim on this 25, so just a tiny sliver of fabric off. I'm also going to start on the non-selvage side and kind of work my way towards the selvage because I don't want to accidentally cut off too much selvage and then not have enough fabric to cut the pieces that I need. So I'll just start by lining up my ruler on a nice straight line. That'll be my reference. And you can see I just took a tiny sliver off. And you can see there, I shifted quite a bit. That was not a great cut. So I'm going to try that again with just a tiny sliver off. Scoot that over. Make sure my fabric's nice and flat. I did not hold my ruler steady enough. So lesson learned. I'm going to push down on that. Nice slow cut again. There we go. Just a little sliver off. And then I'm going to count and cut my next cut here. Make sure I'm nice and lined up with my ruler. Now, another thing for me is this ruler, as you can see, kind of shifts. I have a little bit harder time controlling my big ruler, even with this handy handle on it. So where possible, I prefer to use something smaller. It's just easier for me to hold on to. So I'm going to rotate this. And now I know that these two edges are nice and straight. So I'm going to line one up with one of my lines on the board. Trim my edge here. Get this piece cut. And this is piece A, which you'll have one piece A out of every fat quarter that you cut. And you can see it's a nice big square. So fun fabric can be really fun to use. This is just really the biggest square in the quilt. So it'll really just emphasize the fabric and let it pop, which I think is really beautiful. Another ruler that I really love is this little bit smaller one, and I prefer it even more. It's got the width to fit my hand, whereas this one I gotta be a little more careful I'm not hanging off the edge. This one has the width to fit my hand, and it's just smaller and even easier. Like it's the size of my whole hand, so I don't have to worry about it shifting on me the way that the big ruler did. So those are some of my tips and hints for cutting fabric. I would love to hear if you have any hints or if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Once you have this nice, beautiful stack of all your fat quarters cut, it is time to work on your sashing. So I use my big ruler to cut full width the fabrics as listed in the pattern. And then to subcut them, I will do multiple at a time just for efficiency. If you feel like you're more accurate doing them one at a time, go for it. I just take them and line them up, make sure they're real close to line my lyre, and kind of get them even on the side. And I'll just line a few up here. And I do this when I'm cutting several pieces to the same size. So this is all for the same sashing piece. I'm using my little bit smaller ruler, my 3x18 ruler, which something else I didn't mention is I love to use these little true grips. They work really great to keep my ruler from slipping, to be able to set it down on my fabric. This other ruler that I use a lot actually has this non-stick already on the ruler, which I really, really love. This is my favorite ruler, but it's not big enough for this job. So I'll use my 18-inch ruler, and then I just cut through multiple at the same time, make sure they cut, come down here for the next cut that I need. And this just saves me from, I can just line them all up in one go and then cut through them all at the same time and not be cutting every single one separately. So that's another tip if you feel comfortable doing that, and that'll save you some time getting all of your sashing cut to the right size. I would love to see your progress. Share on Instagram with the hashtag Slea Head Quilt Along and tag me at Stitching Across the Globe. Alternatively, you can just shoot me an email at quilts@stitchingacrosstheglobe.com. I can't wait to see the progress you've made, and until next week, have fun.